The Godzilla vs. Kong trailer's here, and it's full of MonsterVerse secrets. A rematch 60 years in the making is almost finally here. Ever since 1962's King Kong vs. Godzilla, monster movie fans have been champing at the bit for these two colossal creatures to throw down once more. Or to put it in Dr. Serizawa's words from 2014's Godzilla,
let them fight.
Now, thanks to the first Godzilla vs. Kong trailer, we have our best look yet at what the fight of the century will look like when it hits theaters and streams exclusively on HBO Max beginning on March 26th. Now, the action-packed trailer teases a long-awaited titanic tussle between these two mammoth monsters, as well as a sinister secret that could explain exactly why they're trying to beat one another to a pulp. Now, if you're anything like us, you immediately began going over this trailer with a fine-tooth comb looking for clues about what's to come. And there are a lot of hints about what's in store for Godzilla, Kong, and the hapless humans caught in their wake. Now, we're going to break it down for you in just a moment, but if any of our speculation winds up being correct, well, that could be considered a spoiler. So if you're worried about that kind of thing, make like Kong an abandoned ship. Now, in the interest of full disclosure and editorial transparency, I want to note that Legendary, who is making this movie, Godzilla vs. Kong, also owns Nerdist, but let's be honest, we'd be talking about this anyway, but now you know, moving on. So the trailer begins with scenes of Godzilla remodeling a city, which is a fair response considering how frequently mankind straight up attacks him. Or at least someone wants you to think it's Godzilla. With metallic-looking jaws and a glowing red neck, it might actually be a deadly doppelganger, Mechagodzilla. And we'll explain more about that in a little bit. But first, while this is happening, Alexander Skarsgård's character, a geologist named Nathan Lind with ties to Monarch, tells us that Kong is our only chance. A helicopter flying overhead gives us a peek at Eiza Gonzalez as Maya Simmons, who she described in an interview to Collider as a very smart woman behind a company which, based on clues later in the trailer, is likely called Apex. They're a corporation that offers high-tech solutions to primordial problems, which we'll get to in just a little bit as well. Kong, who is much larger than when we first met him back in the 1960s during Kong Skull Island, is now in Monarch's custody, unconscious and shackled, being transported off-island so he can be used as a living weapon to, quote, stop what's coming, end quote. Now, what's coming, you might be wondering? Well, the trailer and most of the humans therein would have you believe it's Godzilla, and those two will definitely throw down, but there's also more to it than that. First, we meet Kong's own version of the Mothra twins, a child who seemingly has a connection to the indigenous Iwi people that live on Skull Island. Now, Rebecca Hall's character, Eileen Andrews, who seems like she's a part of the Monarch Skull Island research team that works alongside Kong, took this little girl in as her own after something happened to her family, leaving the little girl with nowhere else to go. Now, perhaps it's the family's Skull Island heritage, or the fact that Kong generally seems pretty chill with people who aren't actively trying to kill him, but these two share a very touching moment that feels reminiscent of Michelangelo's The Creation of Adam fresco on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Unfortunately, chill is in short supply when out of nowhere from the bottom of the ocean comes a scaly surprise. It's Godzilla. Yes, thank you, Bradley Whitford. I was getting there. Like a radioactive shark, Godzilla weathers missile after missile from fighter jets and endures battleship barrages to make a beeline for the carrier transporting Kong while upending Monarch ships and swatting planes out of the air with his tail like they're just common houseflies. Expensive houseflies, but houseflies nonetheless. Now, despite disemboweling skull crawlers and eating his body weight in Skull Island sashimi, Kong seems genuinely scared by what's about to happen beneath the water. And he learns very quickly that sometimes when you growl into the abyss, well, it growls back. Now, what happens next is exactly what the title promises. Kong lands the first punch on Godzilla as these two battle atop an aircraft carrier, and whatever Kong's been eating on Skull Island has clearly yielded massive gains because these two seem relatively well matched in size. Now, that said, while Kong likely has bad breath from whatever's in his diet, Godzilla's breath is significantly more atomic and cuts a powerful blue swath through everything in its path. Now, as pointed out by @MovieKessler on Twitter, Kong narrowly avoids becoming a flambe by doing his best John McClane impression. Now, this moment is a seeming visual reference to the moment in Die Hard where John McClane jumps off the roof of Nakatomi Plaza to avoid certain doom. Now, whether or not this means that Godzilla vs. Kong is also a Christmas movie, well, that remains to be seen. Later on in the trailer, Kyle Chandler returns as Dr. Mark Russell, and behind him is a monitor reading Godzilla makes landfall in Pensacola, Florida. Local Apex plant, countless homes destroyed by Godzilla. He calls out the obvious, Godzilla's out there hurting people and we don't know why. So yeah, why is Godzilla going rogue? Well, maybe because it's not Godzilla at all. These are dangerous times, warns Damian Bashir's character Walter Simmons, the presumed father of Asa Gonzalez's Maya Simmons, and immediately after, at the 142 mark, we see Shun Oguri as Ren Serizawa, the son of the late Ishiro Serizawa, who gave his life to save Godzilla by detonating a nuclear weapon in an ancient underwater temple, thereby supercharging Godzilla with enough energy to turn King Ghidorah into a three-headed snack in Godzilla King of the Monsters. Remember that? What a good time.
Serizawa's got that lizard juiced.
Damn right.
Ren is standing in front of a bank of monitors that feature a Godzilla-esque blueprint as well as a pop-up about battery systems being at maximum charge. That's right, folks, the unexpected villain we think is hiding in plain sight in this trailer is none other than Mechagodzilla. And I mean, look, we were right about Mecha Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker, so we're probably right about this one as well.
Doesn't matter, I knew I was right. I told you, Chen!
Shut up, Rick.
First introduced in 1974's aptly titled Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, this metallic monstrosity originated as an evil alien superweapon, but changed in its portrayals over time to be a man-made weapon designed to defend mankind from monsters like Godzilla. And who better to design a monster to take down Godzilla once and for all than the son of the scientist who knew Godzilla the best, especially if said son blames Godzilla for his father's untimely yet heroic death. Now, this may come as a surprise, but the clues were actually there all along in the end credits of King of the Monsters. We see a newspaper article titled "Monarch Boosts Forces Around Skull Island," which says De La Rosa went on to claim that Monarch was not only developing this mechanized giant on Skull Island, but had already tried to create organic titans in the past, and that they are the cause of several of the recent incidents. So clearly Monarch's been working on a contingency plan of some sort to take down massive monsters like Godzilla. Now, there are even more clues when Godzilla attacks Kong on the aircraft carrier. If you look closely, his skin sometimes has a silvery sheen, and when he jumps out of the water at Kong, there's a patch on his chest that looks metallic in nature. Plus, his right hand sparkles, and when it hits the deck, it creates sparks as it contacts the surface. Now, even this Godzilla's teeth have a metallic look to them, but this mixture of flesh and steel is in and of itself a deep-cut reference to the OG Mechagodzilla, who is a robot wearing a Godzilla skin suit that gets ripped away, revealing it to be Mechagodzilla all along. And if you want another clue, look at the interstitial titles throughout this trailer. They have an abraded metal texture, which is yet another visual clue there's a mechanical menace lurking in our midst. Now, adding further fuel to this fire is a Pepe Sylvia-style conspiracy board mapping Godzilla sightings, attacks, and news stories concerning the King of the Monsters. There's a line about the UN vetoing Godzilla that could indicate they're maybe helping to fund Apex's research, and the board also indicates a bunch of Apex facilities all around the world, plus some that have been attacked, and it teases a connection between Apex and Godzilla. Now, Apex also has an official Twitter account at Apex_Sciences, and it features the tagline "Contingency and Control in a New Age of Monsters." So perhaps Monarch and Apex are working together to make Mechagodzilla as a weapon to deploy against Godzilla and other titans. Next, we see a familiar face, Millie Bobby Brown, as Madison Russell, who we first met in King of the Monsters, and she and Hunt for the Wilderpeople star Julian Dennison are apparently storm chasers driving around in a van to monitor Godzilla sightings all around the world. And that's convenient as a cover because Godzilla is doing hurricane-level damage in Pensacola, Florida. Now, another deep cut here, that van is very similar to Professor Shinoda's Prediction Network mobile unit van from Godzilla 2000. There's something provoking him that we're not seeing here, Madison says, and then in the next scene in a cyberpunk-looking bar, fellow monster maven Bernie Hayes, played by Brian Tyree Henry, agrees that something is definitely amiss. The real question, though, is whether Godzilla is being framed for these attacks by a mechanical imposter, or if he's actually going wild and lashing out at humanity. And if so, how are Monarch and/or Apex accomplishing this? So maybe they're doing it through using tech like the Orca, which we first saw in King of the Monsters. It uses sonic technology to awaken dormant titans. Maybe some version of that tech is being used to make Godzilla hyper-aggressive and artificially create a demand for a defense tool like a gigantic man-made metal version of Godzilla, like some sort of Mechagodzilla to be precise. While Monarch may be a secretive organization, Apex seems like a straight-up greedy corporation. So whether this mechanical menace is Monarch's master plan to stop these titans once and for all, or it's the creation of whatever corporation Asa Gonzalez and Damian Bashir's characters actually run, that remains to be seen, but something tells us that both Godzilla and Kong will have to put aside their differences to team up and take down Mechagodzilla once and for all during the film's epic finale. But first, Godzilla and Kong have a score to settle, one that seems rooted in ancient myth, harkening back to a war between titans long ago. The myths are real, Eileen tells us in the trailer. Now, what myths, you might be wondering? Well, the clues are there in the form of the redacted text in the end credits of Godzilla King of the Monsters. Eagle-eyed fans have pored over them and discovered they tell a story about the ancient titan-worshipping human civilizations that live in the Hollow Earth. Now, according to the credits, some of these lost civilizations developed telepathic communication with these massive creatures and tried to control the titans using them for war. This led to a cataclysmic battle between titans and humans, leading to the Ice Age, sending the titans into a state of hibernation until things like nuclear weapons, climate change, and human meddling awoke them at long last. This is all seemingly confirmed by the trailer, where we see Kong inside a massive cave putting his hand against a giant red palm print with a mysterious futuristic aircraft behind him while we learn of said war. Now, this is the Hollow Earth, a massive subterranean space inside of our planet that was first mentioned in Kong Skull Island and deepened in Godzilla King of the Monsters to help explain where these creatures came from, how they get around the world so quickly, as well as inferring that ancient highly advanced civilizations existed and built temples to worship them.
Just like zipping around.
Everyone look sharp.
Another indicator that the Titan War actually happened is when we see Kong wielding a giant red glowing axe, as well as using a Titan called the Warbat to beat the crap out of another Warbat, plus you have more futuristic aircraft hovering in the background. Now, that axe is most likely made of one of Godzilla's own scales, because in one of the most epic shots of the trailer, it's able to repel and hold the charge of Godzilla's atomic breath as Kong and Godzilla unleash their mightiest attacks on one another. Now, this is fitting because in order to damage Godzilla, you'd probably need something as hard as Godzilla, like one of his own scales. And there you have it, folks. While this may have seemed like a trailer teasing an epic throwdown between two of the mightiest monsters in movie history, there is a ton to dig into. Nefarious corporations, murderous mechs, in an ancient civilization causing kaiju conflict? I don't know about you, but March 26 cannot get here soon enough when Godzilla vs. Kong hits theaters and streams on HBO Max. That said, we will keep you up to date on all things GVK over on Nerdist, but in the meantime, tell us, what did you think of this trailer? Who do you think will win this fight? And what do you think that Apex and Monarch are really up to? Let's discuss in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, stay tuned to Nerdist.com.